it's me, MLB. This is chapter 66 of Touched. This one is titled Court Day. Is everything about chickens and food with you? You asked cheekily to your man. Well, you're my chicken, so it makes sense that you'd have a little chicken nugget inside of you, he replied with a smile as he walked around to your head and leaned his face down to rub his nose against yours. The sonographer checked the heart rate and size of your little one and dated the baby about 7 to 8 weeks of age. Have you been feeling a little bit of morning sickness? He asked. Yes, you replied with a grimace. It should ease soon. It's a good sign to have morning sickness. You're less likely to miscarry if you have it, so always remember that, he said with a smile. Then he looked up at Hawks. Were you born with your wings, Hawks? He asked curiously. Yes, I was, Hawks replied. I'm a mutant type. My wings are not my quirk. The ability to be able to shoot my feathers and use them as weapons and hear through them is my quirk, and I didn't develop that till age 4. Ah, I see, the doctor replied. Okay, Mrs. Takami, we're going to have to monitor you then. If your little one develops wings in the womb, it could be dangerous for you to give birth naturally, so we might need to look at a planned C-section instead, he said kindly. We want the best possible outcome for you and Bub. Okay, he said with a small smile as Hawks reached for your hand and squeezed it. You looked at him. He looked so happy. After filling out some paperwork, you and Hawks left to go home. I'd really love to see Mum again, you said to your winged hero. I want to tell her the good news. Oh, definitely, Hawks replied with a smile. Well, tell me what day you want to go, and I'll let them know you're coming. Thanks, he said happily. The next week you went. Mum, you called as you pushed her room door open. My girl, she called happily when she heard your voice. You gave her a big grin as you entered the room, and she paused as she looked at you and tilted her head slightly. I'm pregnant, you blurted out, and she nearly passed out with excitement. She raced over and grabbed you in a hug, squealing like a little schoolgirl. Okay, Mum, you laughed. Mum, I can't breathe. Honey, that's fantastic, she cried as she pulled back from you. I'm so excited. Yes, I can tell, you chuckled. Well, since we're sharing good news, I'm seeing someone, your mum replied with a slightly bashful look on her face. You are? You asked hesitantly. Mum, is that a good idea to be seeing someone? I just don't want you to know, regress or something. It's okay, Yin. They're a really lovely person. Who is he? You asked apprehensively. Oh, it's not a he, she replied shyly. It's a she. Mum, you said with surprise. Who is she? Do I know her? Yes, actually. She lives here. You met her before. Ray Todoroki? Ray? Isn't she married to Endeavour? You gasped. Apparently no, your mum replied. She said he divorced her due to shame to family name or some such nonsense. Oh, okay, that's good then, you replied with relief. I'm really happy for you, Mum. She seems really sweet. Sorry for my reaction before. It just kind of took me by surprise, you said with a sheepish look on your face. I support you, though. Thank you, your mum said with a relieved smile. Uncle Anthony said he saw it coming. He said Brian had already called it. He prayed to Beyonce that it would happen or something, whatever that means. You laughed and slapped a hand over your mouth. Yes, I can see that happening, you said with a giggle. So when are you due? Your mum asked excitedly as she beckoned for you to come and sit down so you could have a proper chat. In January next year, you replied. Oh, I'm so excited, she said with a squeal. I'm going to be a grandparent. You'll be amazing, he replied with a soft smile. You chatted a little more, then got up to leave. I have to prepare for the court day tomorrow with Hawks, you said happily. You'll be there, right? Oh, of course, honey, your mum replied with a smile. I'm there to support you. Tomorrow came, and you and Hawks walked into the courtroom. You knew you were going to be questioned on a few things, and your anxiety was starting to peak. Oh, I feel sick, you whispered to Hawks as you put a hand over your mouth. Hey, baby, look at me, he said lowly as he took your chin gently in hand and tilted your face up to his. You just make sure you keep your eyes on me, okay? He said gently. Use me to ground yourself. You nodded into his hand, and he moved your hand off your mouth to give you a quick kiss on the lips before you were directed to the witness area. Sitting down, you saw Brian in the front row with the most flamboyant glasses on that you'd ever seen. You cracked a smile and he tipped them down before giving you an exaggerated wink, then sliding them back up and doing a dramatic gay hair flip, despite his hair not being long enough to flip. The judge entered the room and you were all asked to stand, then sit again, and the court case commenced. There was a massive list of complaints and cases against the president, and you looked at Hawks with surprise when you realised that he had single-handedly compiled all the evidence himself. He winked at you as he reached a hand to his hair, ruffling it slightly. "I would like to call on the witnesses," the lawyer called, and Hawks nodded at you. Quickly you stood up and walked to the stands as Brian clapped excitedly. "Oh God, Brian, you're embarrassing me so much," you wailed as your face flushed with embarrassment. "Go Bambi! Beyonce got you, girl!" Brian called flamboyantly, inventing his own nickname for you. You answered the questions from the lawyers, outlining the stress that you experienced and doing your best not to cry while they cross-examined you. The court adjourned for a half hour as the jury went back into another room to discuss their options, and you were allowed to go and see your mum, Brian, and Anthony, and of course Hawks. You hadn't told Uncle Brian or Anthony about the baby yet. You wanted to surprise them with the news after all this nonsense had been sorted. "Honey, you did so well," Brian praised, giving you a hug. "Ah, she's a tough girl," Hawks added with a soft smile as he sidled up beside you and took your hand. "It's all in the hands of the jury now, but the case is solid." Just then everyone was called back into the room, and you sat with Hawks as the judge called the jury to give their verdict. The head spokes juror stood and took to the mic. "We unanimously find the President of the Public Safety Commission guilty of all the trespasses stated during the hearing," the lady said as she peered down through her bifocal glasses. There was a wave of excited murmurs that rippled through the congregation, and Brian jumped up in his seat. "Yes, bitch!" he screamed, tossing his handbag into the air. The wayward handbag landed heavily on the head of the man that sat directly behind him and Uncle Anthony, and the judge called everyone to order while Brian apologised profusely for his overt display of excitement to the poor man who had copped the handbag to his head. "Order, please," the judge hollered. "Mrs. President, you are sentenced to the minimum of 25 years in jail." And there ends chapter 66. Stay tuned for chapter 67.